More than 20 years after its implementation, the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA, has helped boost agricultural trade between Canada, Mexico, and the United States.
That agreement that we entered into, that came into force on January 1st, 1994, created the world's largest free trade zone. NAFTA was successfully linked to more, or has linked to more than, I believe, close to 461 million people, producing over $17 trillion worth of goods and services annually. When the effects of inflation are taken into account, overall trade between the U.S. and Mexico has increased over 552% since NAFTA. Every single day, there's approximately $1.5 billion worth of goods and services pass across the U.S.-Mexico border.
Before NAFTA was implemented, Mexico had protectionist regulations in place, which caused that market to become known as one of the world's most protected economies. For example, when NAFTA was in the process of being negotiated, about 60% of U.S. agricultural exports to Mexico required import licenses, and there were numerous non-tariff barriers that hurt U.S. agricultural trade with Mexico. Before NAFTA, the government was setting prices so they could protect domestic production. This was hurting the Mexican feed industry since they were paying more for subsidized grain. However, after NAFTA was implemented, the prices of grain started to follow the Chicago Board of Trade, so the feed industry was able to receive a fair price for the corn that they needed. While NAFTA immediately helped the Mexican feed millers pay a fair price for their corn purchases, U.S. corn exports still had to contend with the quota system for 15 years. When the NAFTA agreement first entered into force, there was a quota system in place for corn and sorghum. The system for corn lasted 15 years, during which all tariffs were slowly phased out until the market became completely open. Imports of sorghum were initially managed the same way. However, the Mexican government realized it would benefit the ag industry to open the market completely to sorghum sooner than anticipated. Even though Mexico's imports of U.S. goods were under a quota system that caused some setbacks to free trade because Mexico couldn't access all the grain that the industry needed, this time period helped Mexican buyers learn how to do trade with the United States. So when the market became truly open, Mexican buyers were used to working with U.S. grain companies and could purchase the products they desired. Today, NAFTA continues creating impactful trading opportunities for buyers and sellers of U.S. corn, sorghum, barley, and their co-products.
The NAFTA has been critical also to let the Mexican industry, agri-food industry, to grow in the last 15 to 20 years, mostly. And that has been noticeable, maybe more in the last few years, when showing the results of the trade balance.
The trade between our two countries has skyrocketed since NAFTA, and we are happy to report that in 2014, and it'll probably be even a little bit higher in 2015, exports of agricultural products from the U.S. to Mexico were over $20 billion. But it is really a win-win situation because Mexican agricultural exports to the U.S. were also to the tune of over $20 billion. So the free trade agreements that Mexico has have been critically important to their economy.
Through the NAFTA agreement, Mexico has become and will remain an important market for U.S. coarse grains and co-products.